Welcome back to Shawnigan Unfiltered, a podcast where we invite guests and discuss what we can do to make the school even better. Today we have invited my personal favorite English teacher as well as ex-head house director T. Coy, or Mr. Coy.
T. Coy's fine.
So T. Coy, today we're going to talk about the academic program here at Shawnigan. So you yourself, as an English teacher, what do you like about the current academic program?
I think that the students right now have way more choice than they used to. When I started here, it was English 8, English 9, English 10, English 11, and English 12. In English 12, there were a couple options with AP Lit and AP Lang. But now there's so many more choices. I think that's really good for the students.
I see. Yeah, I agree with you. So do you feel that the schedule should be more spread out, especially with exam seasons? You know, when we have sometimes we'd have all our exams at one time and then we have nothing for a couple of weeks and then all together again.
Yeah, I think it would be a really good idea for teachers to just not try to accumulate marks right before an assessment. Personally, whenever the assessments roll around, I just put in whatever mark the student currently has. I don't worry about getting a new piece of assessment for that, like right before it, because of that reason mostly. But students do get kind of overwhelmed at the same time, but because all of the classes are doing the same thing. Because it's a year-long class, all of our classes are year-long. I think the teachers need to just roll with doing assessments sort of spread out so the students don't get hit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be a great way to solve this issue. Do you think that the students get enough help when they need it? I know there are like mentor hubs and tutorial hours, but do you think that's enough, especially when, hard things like AP chemistry? Do you think the students are getting enough support?
I think that there's a very dedicated teaching staff at the school, and they do give them a lot of time to the kids. But I think our current schedule, the tutorial times, the last couple years have been kind of shuffled around, and maybe they've taken a bit of a hit because they're kind of random. They were at night, now they're not supposed to be at night. Teachers will make themselves available. I know if students ask me, I'm there. And that's true of almost probably all the teachers. But it would be great if there was a scheduled tutorial time that wasn't 8 a.m. or, just find a time with the teacher. It would be great. Like it used to be after lunch. There'd be a half an hour and then all the teachers were in their classrooms and that was used very well. So I'd love to see the tutorial time back into like a regular slot somewhere.
I agree with you, especially recently. I feel like whenever I need a tutorial, I always just email my teacher. I never really know where they are. And I remember back in grade 9, they were all in their classrooms. There's a set place. Maybe back then the tutorial times could have been a little bit longer, but
yeah, they were short. They were like half an hour. They weren't long, but they were every day, yeah. and kids knew where to find you, and that worked.
Yeah, I like the consistency back then. Do you think that students can get too stressed sometimes with their academics, and what advice would you give them to help them?
Well, that's a great question. I 100% think students do get too stressed. I understand being worried and anxious about something because that's normal. I always tell athletes before a race or a game, if they don't feel nervous, that means they don't care. You should feel some nerves. You should feel some nerves before a test. That means you care. And that's fine, but you shouldn't feel so many nerves that you are hindering your ability to perform. So I think students, especially, grade 12s, your university is riding on it, and grade 11s to a certain extent too. But the grade 8s, 9s, 10s, when I see them stress about a test or something, I just am like, this really isn't as big as you think it is. You need to put it in perspective. So advice would be just try to keep everything in perspective, right? I look at students and I always think when this student is 25 or 30 or later in their life, they're going to have a good job, they're going to have a happy life, they're going to be fine. And these tests that they're so stressed about and crying over right now don't matter that much in the long run.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. I think, especially for juniors, it's not that important yet. It's a good habit to get into, focusing on tests and whatnot, but
well, I think it's great that our school puts such a value on academics that kids are upset if they're not doing well. I mean, there's a lot of schools where you have to motivate the kids to care. It's the opposite here. You have to kind of talk them off the ledge sometimes and say, it's not that bad. Even if you fail this, your life will go on. And so our school is got a great academic puts a lot of importance on academics, but I just think the students need to keep a healthy perspective.
Well said, Tikoi. Couldn't have said it better myself.
You're a great interviewer. You've agreed with everything I've said.
Of course, they're all great points. A good fun one here to end it off. A question I ask all my guests: what would you change about the current academic system to make it better for the future students?
That's a tough question because there's so many things that, you can change the schedule this way, that way. You can change the course selection this way, that way, and it will have positives and negatives. I would love to see our classes go back to meeting more regularly. I think twice a week. For English, it's not as great. An hour and a half and then an hour class is that's 2.5 hours. One day of 360 is 3 hours. So we see our classes less than half of the 360 time. And if you look at it that way. And before we would have not so many, not necessarily more hours in the old schedule, but I would see them sometimes 4 times a week. So a regular week for me now is I see a class, like let's say B block, I see them Wednesday morning, and I don't see them again until the next Monday, which is too long for me. I'd rather see them more with less with shorter classes.
Do you think that the current schedule, other than the class times being longer, is overall like a better structure than the previous one?
Well, I love the later start. I think that's really good, and that's part of the reason why I don't like morning tutorials as an option, because I think the sleep part of it is important, that we do let the kids sleep in and get their rest. That's really important, and we can't overlook that. I think for, like I said, for English, the shorter classes and more frequency is good. But I think for sciences and stuff, they like the longer blocks because they do, experiments and they need long blocks. So that's why I say it depends who you ask. You're going to get a different answer. But for English, I would like the shorter ones.
Well said, Tikoi. Well, that's it, and that's all. Do you have any last words for our listeners here?
Just that I think Raf is a really, really good English student. And whoever his current English teacher is, I know he started out by saying that I'm his favorite English teacher, and I think that he just sort of misspoke.
Well, shout out Miss Atkins. Thank you so much for coming on our show, Tikoi. And
it's been a pleasure. Thanks for the drinks and snacks.
Of course. Well, that's it, and that's all, folks. Till next time.